Shalom, my bitches. Myandis here at NFY bringing you How Diplomatic by Dayamek. The alien invasion couldn't wait till the end of the year. I was 2 months away from a cushy ambassadorship in a resort world. 2 months! But no, the crazy bastards had to start their plan for galactic domination just before I retired. Which was why I'd been woken up at 2 in the morning by blaring sirens and a military escort. Wonderful. "Assistant Secretary," said the stern-faced soldier. Normally, young people in my bedroom were a cause for celebration, but I had a feeling he wouldn't take kindly to a proposition. "There's an emergency." Well, isn't that nice? I hadn't guessed at all. I stumbled out of bed and grabbed my fuzzy bathrobe. Now give me a moment to change. There's no time. Come this way. Thus I was manhandled out of my quarters and shoved into a nice armored vehicle. So, I drawled out, wrinkling my nose at the gray interior of the car. What's the emergency? He didn't respond. At this point the sleep had mostly left me, and the nerves were beginning to kick in. If the cookie-cutter soldiers, ones that were different from the usual bodyguards, were refusing to even gossip, then it was more serious than I'd thought. I shifted in place. The Venom Irnov haven't actually attacked, have they? The Venom Irnov, a group of psychopathic alien warlords, had quickly burned their way across the known galaxy. The Goij and the North Central Confederation had already fallen, but there were a few more civilizations between them and us. At least there had been a few civilizations between us. As expected, the soldiers didn't respond. We soon arrived at the planetary military base, and I was again manhandled through a dusty hallway and to a very tense-looking war room. "Assistant Secretary Lucia Weber," sneered the brass-covered man in the front of the room. "Thank you for joining us." He looked my fuzzy robes up and down, and his frown grew bigger. "I appreciate it, General Collins." I snagged a coffee from the terrified baby intern. "What's going on?" I took my seat next to my colleague Vasiliev, the Assistant Secretary for Political Military Affairs. He grunted at me, and I grunted back. "The OEA Republic has fallen. Our ambassador has been taken hostage, and they've already declared war on us." The general looked unexpectedly solemn. "The worst-case scenario has been realized. The Venom Irnov are likely to attack humanity in a week or less." My head snapped back to the front of the room at that. Well, fuck. Everyone had erupted into a cacophony. "We should declare war!" declared one over-enthusiastic colonel. "Are you crazy?" Vasiliev shouted back. He'd had enough coffee to make him talkative. "They'll eat us alive. The Venom Irnov's military capability is more than 10 times ours." I flipped through the dossier on the Venom Irnov, but I didn't find anything new. Probably because I'd written it. I'd spent the last few months frantically gathering information on them, and everything I'd learned had led me to one conclusion. The Venom Irnov were, in some ways, similar to humans, except that they were way more terrifying. Exceptionally terrifying. If I was to take my deepest, darkest nightmare and stick it on steroids, it still wouldn't be as terrifying as the Venom Irnov. 15 feet tall, incredibly fast, incredibly strong, with claws, venom, and teeth that would make the saber-toothed tiger weep, they were literal killing machines. Their homeworld was the definition of Deathworld, but that wasn't the worst of it. It was actually pretty par for the universe. What made the Venom Irnov scary was the fact that they were smart. All of their intellect had been focused into one thing: war. Us humans may have written The Art of War, But their children could come up with tactics that would put Sun Tzu to shame. Even worse, their weaponry was very advanced. As I said, they were like us. The Venomirnov had nukes before they had spaceflight. Actually, they had antimatter weaponry before they had spaceflight. Hell, they didn't even have spaceflight until the Goyj were stupid enough to give them some. Oh, Goyj. They always had their heads up their 15 asses. It's a miracle they hadn't fallen to natural selection sooner. The Venomirnov took to the stars like a shark to water, and they immediately began eating all the little fish in the ocean. And we were next. For once in our existence, the smartest minds of humanity, military people, diplomats, and scientists alike, all agreed on one thing. We were utterly and royally fucked. The argument had died down. Some stared blankly, others fidgeted in place, and a few people were crying. "So, what do we do now?" muttered the same coffeeless intern, voice quavering. I closed the report. "We could try to negotiate." That ended the stupor. Everyone began talking at once, some in favor, some not. Vasilev, who was in vehement agreement, was just about to throw his mug across the room, while the colonel looked about ready to have an aneurysm. The general laughed, his booming voice cutting through the noise. "We might as well," he mused, voice thick with dark humor. "We don't have many other options. Well, Madam Secretary, I'm sure you'd appreciate leading the delegation, unless there's any objections." He looked around the room, and I did too. I tried to catch the eye of my boss, but he was studiously looking in the other direction. Coward. I gritted my teeth. "Sure, why not?" Damn, I'd just postponed my retirement, hadn't I? "They're going to kill us! They're going to eat us all!" Ambassador Ara started screaming incoherently as several Oye were ripped apart. "We have to surrender!" I snapped my fingers and the recording stopped. "Well," I said mildly, "that's what is at stake. Unless you want to be the next poor fools that are going to be killed as an example, then we better study the shit out of them. We've negotiated good deals before. There's no reason we can't do it again." "Other than the fact that they're a bloodthirsty violent race that have rampaged through the known galactic civilizations," the colonel scoffed. "I doubt that asking them nicely will keep the Venomirnov from killing us." I shrugged. "Has anyone tried?" Everyone was silent for a moment. "Well," said Vasilev slowly, "the Goyj gave them spaceships and tried to make them slaves. Then the Venomirnov slaughtered them and made them slaves." I frowned. The North Central Confederation declared war on them immediately after, since they were allies of the Goyj. The Oye ruling council fled, and then there was no government capable of negotiation when the Venomirnov showed up, piped up the intern. We all stared at each other. Even the war-hungry colonel seemed thoughtful. "There's no harm in trying," I said finally. "It's not like we can make things worse." I clapped my hands, feeling hopeful for the first time since the morning. "We have 7 days before they arrive. All right, team, let's get to work." My team and I had used the week to study everything about the Venomirnov. What they needed, what they ate, what they liked. Everything. We'd pieced together the language and customs from the videos, and every single person on the delegation was fluent in Venomirnovese by the time we landed on their mothership. The human treatment, as I liked to call it, was standard course for whenever we encountered a new alien species. This time we did it with a little more desperation than usual. Know your enemy, am I right? After our tiny, unarmed shuttle landed in the enormous Venomirnov mothership, we were roughly grabbed and shoved to the grand greeting room of their warlord. The man bared his fangs at us, jutting his lower jaw at us. I suddenly knew how prey species felt when we smiled at them.
"Weak, not strong humans," rumbled the warlord, "will be received with peace, not danger, but for little, not long. Why should we treat you with mercy, not war?"
The Venom Irnov spoke with a language of opposites. Almost every adjective and the occasional noun was accompanied with the negation of its antonym, hence the slashes. It was weird, but whatever. Chinese was harder to learn. I simplified the dialogue a little for convenience, but not too much because, fuck you, suffer along with me. I stuck out my lower jaw, feeling stupid and uncomfortable, and tilted my head back to expose my neck. Slowly I sunk to my knees, and the members of my delegation did the same.
"O merciful, not cruel warlord,"
I simpered back, taking care to growl the words.
"Your honor, not shame, displays your intellect, not stupidity. Hence we come to you, crouched down like the weak, not strong creatures we are. Will you deign to share drink and bread, so we may discuss the terms, not demands, of our joining not war?"
I used the ritual opening that their weaker tribes used when joining a stronger one. It was a gamble, since I'd stolen it from one of the Venomirnov's TV shows. The warlord glared at us for a moment. Then he began stamping his feet against his chair, hooting with what I hoped was glee, or at least amusement.
"These weak, not strong humans know where they stand. Welcome, not threat, and eat, so we may discuss your joining, not war."
The next night, I called the president from the Venomirnov's ship, trying to ignore my fierce hangover. "Hello?" I mumbled into the long-distance comms. "Madam President, we've come to an agreement with the Venomirnov." The president's normally frosty tone was taut with apprehension. "Well, what are their terms? We aren't going to war, are we?" "No, thankfully not. They've agreed to accept a peaceful, non-violent surrender."
"What do they want? Disarmament?"
said a different, raspy voice. Oh, so it was a conference call. Lovely. With the pounding in my head, it'd be difficult to distinguish the voices. I shook my head, forgetting that they couldn't see me. No, I replied belatedly. We can keep our weapons." "New leadership?" The president, or was that the general, didn't sound happy, which made sense considering she'd be the one to lose out. "Don't worry, Madam President. You can keep your job. The rest of you can too." My boss spoke up now. His high-pitched voice cut right through the fog in my head. "We aren't slaves, are we? Don't tell me we're going the way of the Goysh." I couldn't help the smug smile. "Nope, we retain our planet and our freedom." "Then what are the terms?" snapped the president. Well, I may have pushed it a little too far. I decided to take pity and tell them everything. I'd be a little tense too if I didn't know the fate of my species. "We're vassals. We'll pay tribute to the Venom Irnov every year for a decade, and then we're raised to full clan status, which means equal rights in the multiple eyes of the Venom Irnov." A short silence.
"That's it? What's the catch? What do they want for tribute?"
The general seemed a bit skeptical. Well, really skeptical. I didn't really blame him. If I hadn't lived it myself, I wouldn't believe it.
"A bit of money and natural resources,"
I yawned, still exhausted from the night before. If there was one thing the Venomirnov did better than warmongering, it was partying. "The deal they gave us is standard for Venomirnov vassal, clans." They'd normally ask for soldiers too, but they want something different from us. I paused for dramatic effect, which was ruined by my second yawn. The people at the other end weren't as amused. The people at the other end weren't as amused. But I'd just saved humanity. Sue me.
What is it?
Said my boss, resigned to my attitude.
They want us to be ambassadors and negotiate with other governments and species for surrender. Apparently, most species are too intimidated to properly talk to the Venomirnov, and we seem to have a knack for it. They were really impressed by us. Hell, they were impressed by Ambassador Aros, despite the whole screaming thing. He's on the ship, you know. Another silence. Man, I was on a roll. You're telling me that they gave us a really phenomenal deal because they were impressed by how we surrendered, the President said slowly. Of course, why wouldn't they? I smiled. We asked nicely. Alright, y'alls, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. If you would like to hear more of my stuff, go ahead and subscribe. And if you would like to see my videos show up in your subscription feed, go ahead and hit the bell on the side. And if you have anything to say, leave it down in the comments. Alright, have a nice one, y'alls.